Welcome back to Channel 8 News. I'm Martino Jabowski. We're hearing an increasing number of concerns based on the carbon dioxide emission in the atmosphere. So tonight, we have brought in a specialist of the carbon cycle to help us understand. Welcome, Dr. King Von Joey III.
Hey, thanks for having me, Martino.
No problem.
It's great to be back on the show. I'm really excited to share my knowledge about the carbon cycle with you guys.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. Now let's get into it. Where exactly does the carbon cycle start?
Well, the carbon cycle starts with plants. You know, that the green thing you see everywhere you go. Here is where photosynthesis takes place, the keystone at the start of it. Carbon dioxide gets taken out of the air, absorbed into the plants, and the plants break down this carbon dioxide into sugars for the plants and oxygen to be dispersed back into the air.
Oh, that sounds great. Where does it go after this?
This is where the food chains come into play. Everybody knows about the animals that only feed off plants. They're herbivores. Once the plants are eaten, the carbon only ever exits the food chain during respiration or when an organism dies. At the end of the food chain, decomposers come to the plate and they break down these organisms, releasing carbon back into the air.
Oh, very, very interesting. Well, that sounds like a fairly short cycle. Is there anything else?
No. There's loads more. We haven't even started talking about the ocean. The ocean is constantly exchanging carbon between the atmosphere. Oddly enough, the amount of carbon released into the atmosphere from the ocean is roughly the same as the carbon dioxide that dispenses into the ocean. And this takes us back to the first step of the cycle. A good amount of the carbon dioxide gets absorbed by algae via photosynthesis, entering a new food chain down in the ocean.
It happens in the ocean too?
Yes, absolutely. This is not all the ocean has to offer. The other portion of the carbon dioxide combines with calcium ions in the water to create calcium carbonate. Limestone and dolomite rocks are formed with when this calcium carbonate precipitates out of the air. Though this process of sedimentation is very slow, over the millions of years, carbon is built up to build the largest collection of carbon in the entire cycle.
Wow. Is there any use for all that carbon down there?
Yeah, let me explain. So, a smaller part of this carbon is made up of dead biomass, and before it can get decomposed by other decomposers, it gets buried into the sediments of the ocean. It gets combined with them. And this is where the process of fossilization begins. And after a million years or so, we can combust those fossil fuels, and we can use them for energy. And when we combust this, it just releases carbon all the way back into the air.
Oh my gosh, burning fossil fuels sounds so unnatural. Are there any impacts humans have on this cycle?
Yes, there are actually. And for this, I brought my specialist to talk about this. Welcome, Kyle's brother. Thanks for having me. Hey, thanks for coming, Scott.
It's nice meeting you. I'm glad to talk about the greenhouse gases today. So greenhouse gases are gases that help trap heat and light in our atmosphere. Now, for us, that's not good, but for an example like this is going to be our greenhouse. It does the exact same thing where it traps the heat in and it helps our plants grow. Now, unlike this greenhouse, the greenhouse gases in our atmosphere are not good for the atmosphere. They're causing global temperature changes, they're causing ice caps to melt, and overall, they're just not good.
Humans also impact the cycle as well. Forest fires caused by our campsites burn down the trees, which emits carbon into the atmosphere. When the trees have long recovery times, the carbon in the atmosphere does not get sucked back into the trees, which causes a warmer climate. Also, burning of fossil fuels also affects the carbon cycle. When we mine for the fossil fuels, we mine into rocks to get us energy and fuel, and those rocks are sometimes 70 or 100 million years old. When burning, the carbon is released into the atmosphere, which helps with the greenhouse gas effect, which then allows for higher temps. Deforestation also affects the carbon cycle. When we cut down logs, burn them, or when they die out, they release carbon. Over time, the vegetation will grow back, which will neutralize the carbon in the atmosphere. When we cut down too many trees in a short amount of time, we release more carbon that won't get sucked back into the atmosphere.
Bro. Good evening. As you can see here, this car is releasing a lot of carbon out of the exhaust. And this is a huge problem because this goes into our atmosphere and causes pollution and raised temperatures, increased temperatures. And nowadays we have Tesla and GM who are introducing electric cars. And this makes it a lot less emissions around the world, which reduces pollution and all of that.
Urbanization is the last way we affect the carbon cycle. Making cities requires the cutting of trees, which releases carbon to the atmosphere without getting sucked back into the plants or other trees. Urban cities releases the most amount of carbon emissions by the burning of fossil fuels, deforestation, and other means to make cities.
Back to you, Martino.
Thank you, Kyle's brother. You know, we wish we could have had Kyle on, but sometimes you just gotta settle for less. And thank you for Von Joey. Thank you for coming on, sharing the carbon cycle. I think everyone enjoyed it. Any last words from you?
No, I'm just glad to be here. It was a pleasant experience, and I'd definitely do it again.
Sounds good.